Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
It's been a while since we have done our Friday vlog, so it's great to be back. And we were busy with our rewilding experience group, and we had a really great time working with them. So it's just been quite the journey.
It has.
And yeah, sorry, we
No,
can
I
say
didn't have to
something.
say anything else.
I heard this. I thought you were going to say something. So one of the things that came to my mind this morning, I'm sure you're also aware of, what's been going on in terms of the latest police killing with George Floyd, and that's just really been on my mind. And it just feels important to acknowledge. It feels important to speak out in solidarity. It feels important to take action. And for me, part of that action, there's all of the external action that we can take, and we will include links for that. But it's also the recognition that within each one of us is where biases and prejudice exists, and that's really on us to become more aware. And even though I am the victim of racism in my life, that doesn't mean that I can't be racist and that I can't have biases in my life too. And that's on me to be able to become more aware of that and to overcome that. And that ultimately that's what we all need to do together.
Yeah, coming from a position of white privilege, I think that I have to, I have to really find a way to listen better. I have to really feel like through listening, I'll have some kind of insight that will allow me to be a part of the solution and not be part of the problem. Because as a person of white privilege in this culture, I have to be a part of the problem, and I have to own that. And the only way forward now is to just be all ears. And so that's what I'm going to do when I hear you speak now is be all ears because you are a person of color. And it's, I feel like I have had so many privileges, and I think that for me it's been easy to be ignorant of the problem and kind of not even have that on my radar in a way that would lead to a solution. I think that's probably the bigger part of the issue, for being a part of a culture of white privilege, is that we're not really it's not on our radar in a way that we can find solution.
And I think that's a really important point because obviously there's the incredible outrage about recent events, and but the level of shock that can come up for people, it's sort of as if this isn't part of what's ongoing, even when these really significant events are not happening, racism is still occurring. It's still part of the system. And it's not just about recognizing it during these times, it's about really looking at what can be done in the long term and sustainable way by all of us coming together.
Yeah, because it is shocking.
Yes.
um Unbelievably shocking. When I saw that video, it turns my stomach. But it's like, what is it that I can do to make this situation be no more? And it's easy to kind of sort of brush it under the rug and move on. But I'm not the person that's having a knee stuck into my throat. But we have a responsibility. You know, as a person of white privilege, I have a responsibility to do what I can, and not sweep it under the rug. And it's like, it's enough already. Let's stop doing that. Let's find a way to create solidarity, and solidarity will come through us listening, um, to the oppression that has been institutionalized
Hmm.
for, I don't know, centuries maybe.
Well, listening, and what I'm also saying is getting reflective in terms of how that conditioning is present in ourselves, getting aware of how those biases exist in all of us. And like I said, just because I'm a woman of color doesn't mean that I don't have them too. And I think that's really for all of us to wake up more fully to how that influences our worldview. And as from a brain science point of view, we know the brain automatically creates biases and creates models. It's just the way that it learns. But just because that's how our brain tries to navigate situations in the easiest way, it doesn't mean that we can't also become more conscious of those biases so that they don't limit us in the way that they currently do.
Yeah, I'm listening, but I'm but I'm also, starting to reflect on the fact that I have had my biases, and I think that the thing that's really obvious to me now is just this idea that I've really kind of been ignorant to what's going on. I mean, really, I have my own personal story as far as that's concerned. When I was a teenager, I had my best friend Richard. He was black, and we were inseparable for a couple of years. And my sister, who was living in Canada at the time, was getting married. And when I told Richard that she was getting married, he said, "Well, I have a friend. I have an uncle who lives in New York. Maybe we could have a trip. Maybe we'll go to New York, and then we'll go up to Canada." And I'm like, "Great, that sounds like an amazing idea." And then when I broached the subject with, I think I first told my mum, and I think then my mum had approached my dad, and then my mum came back to me and said, "Oh, your dad says no way, it's not going to happen." And then I think my dad, at the dinner table, whatever, said, "Yeah, no, no, that would be really, that's just not going to happen." And I just thought that he was just being mean, and I didn't have a great relationship with my dad, so I just thought that's just who he is. He's just not a very nice person. But it never occurred to me that that could have been motivated by, along racial lines, racist lines, and maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But now, looking back, many years later, and I know that Richard, for whatever reason, well, obviously now, our relationship just kind of like petered out. He became very cold and aloof, and we just basically stopped hanging out. And I didn't really know why at the time. It never occurred to me in a million years that he would have thought that my dad said, you're not coming to the wedding because you're a black man, and I have this racist point of view. Never even occurred to me. So that's my position of white privilege, of being completely ignorant to the fact that there is a problem. And for me, he is someone, he was my best, closest friend. We hung out all the time. It didn't occur to me that he would have held it that way. And I carry a lot of guilt around that. And, for me now moving forward is kind of like, yeah, it's like it's there, and it has to be addressed and has to be recognized that there is this monumental problem, and the only way that we're going to get past this is through solidarity and by developing a sense of awareness about, how hundreds of years of oppression have taken its toll and have created a mindset that, has created this schism, that there is this horrible way that we divide ourselves. And I guess that, I don't know the brain science behind it all, but I guess that, we're designed to have these biases in some way. Although that's not our innate natural state. You put a bunch of, toddlers together of many different creeds and cultures, and they'll get on like a house on fire. And yet we take on board societal programming, and then it's a whole different story.
Yeah. And I can feel my emotions coming up too. So we recognize that this is a very sensitive subject. We are doing our best, and I'm sure it's imperfect, to bring understanding and love to this conversation, and to learn and be willing to learn and to be willing to grow and to admit to our need for that and own our willingness to do that. And we hope that this encourages you to take action in whatever way makes sense for you, so that we can all come together to create a more loving, kind, just society for all of us. And that in that space, there is an understanding that we ultimately all come from the same source, that there is no better than or worse than, but right now there exist very strong viewpoints in culture that say there is. And so we can't just pretend that that's not happening, even though we may have strong beliefs of faith, knowing that we're all from the one source. We also need to acknowledge that that's not what's being portrayed in society, and that we need to do whatever we can, if we want to, if we choose to do our own work of really looking beyond the conditioning that we've taken on and coming together so that we can unite, to bring, like I said, more love and understanding into the world.
Beautifully said.
All right, we send you our love. Bye bye.
Bye bye.